Hi, and welcome to the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show. This episode of the Live Edge Lumber Girl Show comes to you from Tags Tools, with 2 locations to serve you in Hamilton, one at 1104 Barton Street East, and in the mountain at 1361 Rymel Road East, your go-to store for hard-to-find tools and machinery. And now for some insight with a very special couple, Aaron and Corné of Arisan Woods, and the inventors of the Maker's Reusable Mold. I'm here with Aaron and Corné of Maker's Reusable Mold and Arisan Woods, and 2 very, very hard-working individuals. So, how's it going?
It's a little crazy right now, but between the businesses and the kids, it's a little harder than what we would normally expect. With Riley's only 3 years old, so she's pretty demanding, and not having any babysitting or daycare available is pretty.
Yeah, that's brutal when you're trying to run a business.
Oh, well, you got to try and make do, right? So.
Right. How are things since the COVID-19 came in?
I think in the last 2 weeks, actually, we've gotten busier. Not just with the mold side of it, but actually the Arisan Woods part of it. And with me following up with all the inquiries that we get through our website, a gentleman called, or I called a gentleman back and said, thank you for your inquiry. I know this is the piece of furniture you're looking for. I'm just like, he's like, well, I met you guys last year at a craft show and I really like what you were doing. I want to start with one piece. I want to add something else on. And I actually said to him, I said, well, how come you, I said, thank you for choosing local. I said, this is amazing. I like keeping business, especially supporting small businesses and stuff like us. Yeah. And he said to me, well, I said, we've actually gotten really, really busy. He said to me, well, the reason for that is probably because people are canceling their vacations. So now instead of going on vacation and having all that vacation money, now they're spending it on their home and upgrading their television, upgrading their couch, and upgrading their TV room and their dining room tables and coffee tables, or redoing the house. So that's where we get busier. So that's just kind of, it's busy on both ends of it. And I think people being stuck at home, they request the molds because now, like yourself, you know how easy it is. Instead of having to go out and buy the supplies, cut the mold size, make it, tape it, silicone it, getting it together, and you can only use it once or twice. Yeah, I think a reusable mold is just much better because it's, like you said, it's reusable. We've used it for over 3 years ourselves, and just refined it to bring it to the public, because we have so many people requesting. They're like, what do you use for a mold? And that's amazing. And where can I get one? So we just decided in February, we
decided well before February.
We launched it in February after a long, research and kind of finding the right inserts for it and how to do this, and actually testing some other different products and what's the best thing for us to use. And we came up with this mold, and we still find tweaking it up into the last minute. And so it's right on. But it's been busy because people are home now. What I was going to say, they're home now. They have nothing else to do, so they want to have time. They want to dab into this. Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about the molds. What's like? I know you have different sizes, right?
Well, we for ourselves and our own purposes, we initially made a massive mold, so like an 8-foot by 4-foot table, because that's what we mainly do. You've seen when we buy wood from you.
Yes.
When we were buying wood from you. We're usually concentrating on really big projects, like a 7-foot table or an 8-foot table. So we wanted something that was going to suit our purposes. We've also always been doing the charcuterie stuff. So like the smaller stuff or art pieces and that kind of thing. So I think about 2 years ago? 2 years ago, I made a coffee table mold that I could do multiple charcuterie boards in as well.
Split it up into 4, right?
Like what I did.
Yeah, like what you have.
Okay, yeah.
And then that's just kind of what we kept using. But while we were doing that, we were trying to look at the different things that were going to make it better or could make it better.
User friendly as well, like for a first time user to be able to use it, right?
Yeah,
To make
so
it easier.
like with our
Right.
molds, our initial molds that we made, we were using screws. So we were screwing in and out. And eventually that wears down on the plastic, or you have to screw it in a different spot.
Right.
And it just starts looking not so great after a while. So I did a lot of research and ended up finding really high quality inserts from a company called Rampatech. They have a facility here in Canada, but they're actually German made, German produced.
Okay.
They're not like the ones you get from Home Depot. So the inserts they're cast insert as opposed to just being put together.
Oh, that's what the difference is. Okay.
Yeah.
They go in straight every time, which is great, especially when you're working with wood and you drill your hole. If you do a regular one, let's say from store here, and you drill it in from Home Depot, it can sometimes go in sideways. And when you try to screw in your legs, it doesn't go in because now the bolt didn't go in straight. These guys go in straight every single time.
You can also feel the difference in them too. They're just heavier. They're stronger. They're just better material. So we wanted to make sure that everything that was in it was high end and something that wasn't going to break down and strip really easily on you, like a Chinese made bolt type thing. So we went with that. And outside of that, I found we're constantly, the surface that we have to work on a lot of the time isn't completely level. We've got a table that we roll around from one part of the shop to the other.
Workshop.
So the workshop's
Right.
not always completely level. So what made it easier with the coffee table mold in particular was the leveling feet. So instead of putting shims underneath to try and get your mold level, your project level, to make sure that your epoxy is going perfectly flat.
Yeah.
We added in the feet as well, and then we put the levels on too, just to make it that much more easy. The thing is like there's a lot of people that are interested. If you go onto some of these Facebook groups, they have like 50,000, 60,000 members of the groups, of these epoxy resin groups. And it's not just furniture makers like you and me. It's artists. It's people that just play around with it. It's people that they pour epoxy into like little molds and all this kind of stuff, but they want to take it to the next level. Yeah. And they don't know how. Building the mold, you said it yourself, is one of the most intimidating parts of it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I don't want to build my own mold. I just don't. I'd rather just get to work, right?
So, and what we found, what the funniest part about it was, and Corné said this 1,000 times, she said it the other day to me too, is if you're a handy guy at all, like myself and like most guys out there, we usually look at something and go, I can do that myself.
Oh, you did that with the router sled. That was in the, we got a flyer to our house.
From Lee Valley.
From Lee Valley, and I opened it up, and it was open at the router sled, right? I said to him, oh, so I see you were looking at the router sled. How much was it? He's like, oh no, I'll just build it myself. I'm like, really? We've had a workshop now, like doing this full time for just over 3 years, and we still haven't built a router sled.
Right.
And you're telling me that you're looking at this one that you can go out and buy, yet you still say to me that, no, I'll make it.
Right. Making the time is another thing,
but
right?
That's a guy thing. I think it's a guy thing. They see a table, they're like, oh, I'm not going to pay $300 for that side table. I'll just make it myself. Never gets done. Doesn't.
What we found, and what the really funny thing about the molds is like, well, Corné just put the term like, well, women are just smarter than men, but about 70 or 80% of the people that have purchased it so far have been women, because they just don't want to go with the hassle of having to measure and cut and make sure everything's put together properly. Yeah. The other thing is, as well, as you mentioned in the beginning of the video, is our other company, Arisan Woods, which we make furniture, we do the charcuterie, we do art pieces. We founded Arisan Woods as a way to try and teach our kids how to give back. We had another woodworking company before that. We really wanted to teach our kids, if there was a way that they could change the world just a little bit, it's a great thing to do, especially if it doesn't hurt you, your family, or any other people. So Arisan Woods, a portion of every sale that we do goes right back into areas of Canada and parts of the world that have seen devastation from forest fire or some other kind of disaster. Well, so because of the ecological part of it with Arisan Woods, it really, really bothered me when we were doing molds with tuck tape and melamine or any other materials, how much we were putting into the dumps.
Yes.
Because none of that, after you've worked with epoxy with it, it's not recyclable, because there's bits of epoxy stuck to it, or there's tape stuck to it. It's not something you can just toss in your recycle bin, and you can't take it to the clean wood bin either. So it just goes into the dumps, in a landfill. So we wanted to come up with a mold that was going to be a little bit more eco-friendly to start off with. But if you decided 2 years down the road, you know what, enough is enough, I don't want to do this, I just need to get it out of my shop, the whole thing's recyclable.
Okay, really?
All the plastics that are in it are recyclable plastics.
Right.
The
It
metals
can go in
are
the blue bin?
obviously recyclable as well.
Can it go in the blue bin?
Yeah.
Okay. But why wouldn't you just sell it if it's still usable?
You can do that,
Right?
do that too. And we hope you would. But instead of anything having to go into the dump, the whole thing's recyclable as well.
That is really, like, that's the way it should be. Every company should be thinking the way you guys are. That's awesome. You have a CNC.
Yeah.
What do you do with your CNC?
Well, I carved the nameplates for the measuring plates for the front.
Right.
I do some 3D carvings. We carve our boards. I think I showed you one of those.
Yeah, you did.
So Corné was busy oiling about 25 of these that we've got produced for the client. That's upside down, so you can read it, and backwards, but it says home.
So that's an order that you're working on there.
Yeah. That's what Corné was saying earlier. Like we've gotten so busy, it's crazy. Like we expected with the whole shutdown that
everything
the woodworking side would just slow to a halt, because most of our business is usually through the markets, we do trade shows, that kind of thing. Like that's how we market ourselves for the most part. It always looks better in person than it does on a picture on the computer. So it's great that way for us, but we can't do any of those anymore. So we thought the world was just going to grind to a halt in terms of the woodworking thing. The mold thing we hadn't considered. We really hadn't. We started it right before, like, there was the warning, or we started it back in February. So when we started that, we were excited about it. We didn't think it would take off to the way that it has. Like, it's been insane.
Yeah. Well, you worked hard. It should have taken off like it has.
But you know what, and it's just us. So Aaron, we cut it, we cut all the pieces, we actually put it all together, we assemble every single piece, and then unassemble every single piece, and that little pieces of plastic is so static, it just sticks to absolutely everything. It drives me crazy. But then we basically have every single mold that's been put together and then take apart. And then I will start wrapping them do the boxes. I box it all myself. We had to order specialty boxes for them to fit in. And it's constant. Every day we have phone calls. Every day there's people asking us questions, and it's on Arisan Woods, and it's the mold. And we've had people from all over the world reaching out. So sometimes we just have to, I go to bed, I can't handle it. And he's up until 2, 3 in the morning, and he just has to turn his phone
from all
on
over
saying,
the world.
I just can't answer these people anymore.
So far we've shipped
Ireland.
We've shipped molds out to Ireland and the UK. We've shipped a couple out to Europe. We've got inquiries coming in from Africa. We've got inquiries coming in from Australia and New Zealand. So pretty much every time zone out there.
How are you doing, Paula?
Yeah. How have things been for you?
Am I getting interviewed? No, actually things are coming along. So doing the Live Edge Lumber Girl show was sort of like this just brainchild that I thought, I was about to start my artisan shop, and then the COVID-19 hit, and then I came up with this idea, brainstorming with a friend, to just like help other makers who are, sort of struggling right now, or some not, but I mean, like, just to get the word out there, what they're doing, what they can offer, how they can help other makers,
That's why we're on our phones all the time, or like when we're not working in the shop, I'm checking messages and trying to answer back. And it's not just about the sales. Like I think that, like, we truly want to help people.
Yes. Yeah, I know that.
You
guys are like, it's like hearts of gold.
We've done lots of epoxy. We are full of information. We have used like 12 different brands of epoxy. like if we've learned a lot. We've made expensive mistakes because the epoxy is not cheap. You know, we have no problem in telling people, absolutely, I will help you. I have no problem in saying, you know what, oh, you're going to be my competition. For us, it's more community over competition. You know what I mean? It's like we're more like, let's help each other. You know what, if I have somebody in your area that wants to buy something, then great, I'll send them your way. You know, if they want to get something from me because they like my product, it doesn't matter. It's all about community. You know, let's all help each other out. The thing I think that scares us the most is that, yes, we're busy right now, but, you know, we do rely on our summer starting in June. We have actually May, June, July, August, September, and in December, we have some of our biggest shows where people will see us. And I'm afraid that all of those are going to be canceled. So we're not going to have any of that exposure.
Maybe you want to start thinking about, well, if I can't do the show, what am I going to do? How am I going to?
That's the thing that scares us is right now, yes, we are super busy. We've gotten a lot of inquiries and all these things. But you know what? We have a full another 8 months to think of, right, for the rest of the year. And moving forward, it's not just what this year is going to bring, but what's the beginning of next year going to bring us. Next year, come, you know, January, February, March, which is really slow months usually anyway.
But that's as well, like, why we're thinking with the mold thing, or with the Maker's Reusable mold, like offering different product in the future as well. So
that's great that you're going to be doing that you're thinking ahead on the whole Maker's Reusable mold. I think that you've really got something.
The great part, I think the greatest part about it is you don't have to tape anymore. The amount of time that it cuts down on is insane. Right. You'll find that out when you go to demold it. You already found it out when you were building it.
Right.
Like building a mold normally takes, I'm an experienced woodworker. It takes me about an hour.
Okay.
Somebody that's not done one before, it's going to take them an hour and a half to 2 hours minimum.
Well, remember when we first did one of the first ones we did was a big willow dining room table.
Oh yeah, that was
how long that took us to make it, and like that's a long time ago. But it took us so much because we weren't sure, and like you're just trial and error at that point. We also we didn't know
leveling it out and all that kind of stuff either. Like it's stuff that's in the back of your mind, but you forget about that kind of thing too. Because if your mold's not level, you're gonna waste. That's part of it, because you'll end up having it slanted. So the way that
and then you got to fill, and
you'll be at 1 inch on one side, you'll be at 1 1/4 inches over on the other, and so you're gonna end up having to plane through all of that. That's so much waste. So having your mold level is important. That's one of the reasons we did that.
But also when you pour it, you can see if it's not level. Then you can go ahead and then it takes two of us to kind of lift one side up and shift it to try and see if we can get it more level. And that it's just so inconvenient.
So I made the coffee table mold originally about 2 years ago, so that I could divide it up and be able to put in inserts, do charcuterie boards if we wanted to, do a coffee table, just have something that I could consistently reuse. Put longer dividers in it too, in case I wanted to do a thinner coffee table or we had a custom order. And I made it long enough that 99% of the time, most coffee tables are going to be about 4 feet or less.
Right.
So I made it long enough that you could do that, or make it a little bit smaller as well. And then, like I said, we just kept looking at the different refinements. Sometimes we wanted to do just one pour. Just to play around, it could, for some people, it's not necessarily a business, it's a hobby.
Yeah,
so buying a big coffee table mold that's going to, and if they're in a small space, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have something like that. So I also put together a smaller one that was actually the original one that we were going to offer out to the market, which is 24 by 16 inches. It could be divided up into two.
Right.
And then we also realized, you know what, there's people that are going to just want a baby one. They just want to do one board at a time, or they want to do smaller pours and just do, what are they called?
Blanks.
Like crib boards or blanks.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Turning or something.
So we made the mini, and
That's 16 by 12.
Yeah, it's 16 by 12.
Right.
And one of the most important ones that we have, and I believe not enough people take advantage of it, is the Tom box or the overpour mold.
Tell me about it.
Well,
I was thinking, I need that one right now. Like,
You could, and you make beautiful coasters from it. Hold on, let me. Do you want to reach up and grab the coaster? It's on the top there.
Sure.
And it's like a 12-inch by 4x4, and
Right.
you just put all your leftover wood in there, like waste nothing,
You
right?
throw
Right.
bark in there.
so
And
you
you
throw,
can see all the
you
different
throw some wood
colors.
in there, you do your
It's all
pots,
the
you just
different
make a
colors,
mishmash.
and you can even have 2 or 3 of those boxes. You can write on them, and one is blue and gold, and the other one is red and white.
Oh.
And every time you just pour like different colors in. Like my next one I'm gonna try is I'm gonna stand the box on its side, so I have a color this way. I'm gonna turn to the other way. I'm gonna have a color there. And I want to have it so it's like all like, and then you just go ahead, you break it out of the mold, you cut it into coasters.
We even
Yeah, wow.
the bar when we
That's black walnut bark.
Okay, cool.
well, because when we're debarking we save all of our bark from when we debark a slab.
Okay.
And just chuck some of that into the mold.
Yeah.
And the reason we call it the overpour mold, or the Tom box, whatever, is because literally it's what you do with your leftover resin.
Tip your cups upside down in it.
There's a lot of times when you're going to do a pour, especially that last pour, when you're just going to top it up, where you've just made too much resin. So
Just
what do you do?
Too much, yeah.
We've done it so many times where we ended up having like cups left in the shop that had this much epoxy left in it.
Yeah.
Or a bucket left in the shop that had that much epoxy left in it. So now we just add some tint to it, or use the tint that was already in there, and pour that in the Tom box. If it takes us a month to fill it up, it's fine, but it's 12 by 4x4, so I can literally take it over to the miter saw and just cut myself coasters, and it pays for itself. Like
sand it
literally.
and spray it, or
so you just sand it down. Do you use like water to sand that down, or?
No, I just sand it, and then
I'll
usually just spray finish it or whatnot. You could just polish it up.
Yeah.
You could even, if you didn't want to use spray finish or polish,
that's an epoxy
you
coating.
just pour another coat of epoxy over top of it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And that'll fill in all the grooves and the cracks.
That's salted maple and walnut bark.
Yeah, I just like you can throw in cutoffs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's we've used that so many times, and that's how we do all of our coasters. And every single time they come out different.
Yeah, it's ingenious, really. Yeah.
So.
That one day was red and white. Then we had one that was just all the different colors. It was purples and blues and greens and reds and whites, all different gold, all different colors, and people just love it. It's it's so gorgeous. Like we have them in our own house. We love it. People love it.
And you're literally just making them out of your garbage. I hate calling it that, but your garbage material.
Yeah, no kidding.
Money down the drain. So.
A buddy of mine had me make him one that he's a wood turner, so he doesn't do a lot of epoxy work. So he just asked me if I could make him a blank. I'm like, yeah, it won't be a problem. So I give him this big blank, and he goes, well, how much do you want for this? I'm like, well, just throw me a few bucks or whatever.
Yeah.
So instead, he made me a bowl.
Cool.
At the end of it, he goes, do you know how much you would actually pay for one of those blanks? It's 12 inches by 4 inches by 4 inches. That's a big epoxy blank.
That's a big blank.
Yeah, I have no idea what something like that goes for.
Well, when you consider just like a little resin pen blank that is about 3/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch by 5 inches, those sell anywhere from about $7 to
$15
to $15, $20 a piece.
Wow. So that really makes sense to have that then. So
it's $125. It's honestly, it's so reusable, and it's crazy. And it's something, even if it takes you 6 months to fill it up.
Yeah.
It's epoxy that you would have just left in your cup and you would have done nothing with.
Right.
And I have all these round silicone coaster molds. I have like 15 sets of those because I'm like, I'm gonna make coaster molds.
Yeah.
You know what? As soon as you touch that flame on that silicone, it bonds with your epoxy. Now you go ahead and break that coaster out, and it's bond, and now you peel it off and you make a hole in that. So I have they come in sets of 3, which is silly. Why would you do sets
that
of
is.
3
I noticed
coasters?
that. Yeah.
So what I do then is I went ahead and I start cutting them off because I've tore the silicone so that they're not usable anymore.
Yeah.
So I'll throw that away. So my 3 coasters are now 2 coasters. Some of them is only 1. But again, if they're not level, then I sit with the odd coaster. Or if I don't have enough epoxy for 3 coasters or 4 coasters. Now I have a black coaster. Now I have a gold coaster, and I have a green coaster. And who's going to mix and match coasters? Like
That's pretty much what we have here. We had 3 and 1, so we have a set of 4.
Right.
But it's all mixed match. It's like, and that's why it's mine. But
Yeah.
like I have a bunch of these round ones. Some of them are deeper than other ones. Some of them are tilted because they're not level.
Yeah.
It's just I can't sell that. So now
Yeah.
it's a waste. Still, it's a
Okay.
waste. I thought I was saving my epoxy by pouring it into a mold. It still wasn't safe. It's still a waste.
Interesting. So tell me a little bit more about the charity part of Arisan Woods, so that our listeners can understand what that is.
So we partnered with a company that the owner, or I guess the owner, I don't know what to call him, the founder of the company, because they're not for profit. He's Canadian originally, from Ottawa, I believe, and but he moved down to the U.S. in Colorado to start up One Tree Planted. So they plant all throughout the world, but the great thing with them is you can choose where you want to plant. So they usually focus on areas in need or areas of devastation. So areas in need would be places in, let's say, Africa or India that need fruit groves planted, or places that are devastated would be like the Fort Mac fires.
California,
up in Alberta, or
Australia.
Australia.
Yeah.
Actually, we were doing a big focus on South America with the Amazon fires.
Okay.
So we typically focus on Canadian, just because it's where we're from and it's what's kind of close to home and important for us as well. But obviously, like Australia and South America, where it's just huge, is big for us too. What we really liked with them is they don't go in and plant a pine grove. So have you ever seen one of those pine forests where all the trees are just straight?
Yeah.
And you're just walking through rows on rows of pine trees?
Yes.
That's not that's not a sustainable way of planting.
Right.
The trees literally have to fight for canopy space. So they have to grow naturally the way they would in a forest. So in an area that is literally the size of our dining room, which is probably we've got a small dining room, it's about 12 by 12, or maybe 14 by 12. In an area like that, you'd be planting 20, 30 trees, but they would be all different species. So you'd have you would literally, you might only see the same species 2 or 3 times.
What's needed
in that area too. So that's what we really liked about them, is that they're reforesting areas that need it, and they're reforesting it with the right plants.
Well, we went in, where was it, in Toronto and Vaughan, I think, to a conservation area. We went to go physically plant trees with them.
We wanted to have an idea of what they were doing too. So
they have it all laid out. They teach you kind of how to plant, what to look for, what to do, and they have them all set out. And you don't plant the same tree twice. It's like, there's different, they know what's native to the area, what kind of bushes grow, and what kind of everything. It's just
really cool. That's
we want to have a system where it was okay, well, we'll plant 1 tree if you buy a table, because although that's still awesome and all that kind of thing, we wanted to try and see if we could do a little bit more. So we base it more on a percentage. So there was a coffee table that we sold last year that planted, I think it was 150 trees. Because of the type of wood and because of the expense of the table, it was a rare type of wood.
Okay.
And then down to even a coaster, I'll plant a couple of trees. So it's we wanted to kind of focus more on a model where we could give back a little bit more. But the really cool thing with it was, and this is where I was saying right in the beginning of the conversation, is when we wanted to try and teach our kids how to give back more than what they took, this was one of the best ways we could find to do it. It was very cohesive with our business because we're woodworking anyways, and that's what we're taking to use.
Right.
But at the same point in time, we wanted to see if there was a way of giving back more. So there was a table that we did last year or the year before that was the big leaf maple burl.
Oh no, it was 2 years ago. We went to Hawaii.
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago.
So we did a table that was from a big leaf maple burl. Big leaf maple only grows out west. It's some people natives will sometimes call them like a weed, but they're not really. They're almost endangered because of how they grow. They only grow in lower British Columbia, Oregon and Washington State mainly, and maybe a few in California, a little bit further east, but that's about it. The burls are really highly prized after. It's a softer maple, but it's beautiful. Like the wood is it's got a lot of red tones,
Looks
curl.
like flames almost.
They've actually,
Oh,
the park rangers will, they'll grab poachers from trying to cut off the burls because the burls just.
Oh, really? Oh
Yeah,
my
yeah.
goodness. Okay.
It's almost like it's not as rare as what redwood would be, but it's closing in on that.
Okay.
The table that we planted, or sorry, that we planted, the table that we made, let's say that tree fell down, because that's the only way that you can get it, that you can come by it. It's an endangered species, so you only get it if the tree falls down. And that entire tree was cut up into pieces to make coffee tables. You could probably make, I think, what was it? Something like 300 coffee tables out of it. We calculated, because it's a pretty big tree.
Yeah.
That one planted 100 trees. That table in particular.
Wow.
So if you took that 300 coffee tables, and that's what you made, and you multiplied that by 100 as well,
Yeah.
you're coming up with about 30,000 trees in the plant.
That's amazing.
That's a pretty awesome number. So that's the way that we kind of thought about it in terms of giving back more than what you took, because it's a way. Just, we're not big environmentalists and all that kind of thing. Like, we're not the ones we're not going to be holding the signs and all that kind of thing. But if we can give back a little bit more than what we took, we can hopefully make the air cleaner and just the world a better place, right?
Yeah. So, what's your next plans? Do you have anything new that you would want to tell me about, or?
We have something exciting coming up that we're going to be launching on our Etsy store.
What's that? Oh, yeah. Well, we just joined with a really high-end pigment company. You might have seen us do a post with the hand covered in pigment.
Yes, I did see that.
So they're not in Canada yet. We're going to be their first Canadian dealer.
All right.
Called Eye Candy Customs.
Okay.
They are literally like the highest end mica pigments you can get.
Okay.
Close to the same price range as some of the others. She doesn't want me to name any brands.
We don't need to say brands.
But they've got just some unbelievable mica powders. They're working on a few new things. They've got some color changing pigments that are really, really cool.
So it changes from yellow to green, or purple to green, or blue to green, or blue to yellow.
Okay.
Blue to purple, and red's in there as well.
Interesting. So many like color changing ones. It depends on how you look at it.
That's neat. That's really neat.
We should get the package tomorrow. So
right on. Okay, so the sky's the limit.
Stop the custom. So we're going to be the first ones in Canada carrying them, and it's just something more that we wanted to be able to add to the molds.
Yeah.
To be able to offer out there.
So you'll be adding that to your website then.
Yeah.
Very soon.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they'll have some test packs as well, so you can get like 10 of different colors to be able to try them out. And we're working on a couple other designs for the molds as well. We tested out one as a prototype last week, and we weren't really happy with it, so we've kind of gone back to the drawing board, and we should be able to release it in the next few weeks.
Right on.
So we gotta keep that a little bit top secret right now.
Of course.
Just until we do, because we don't want to make any promises.
I don't expect you to share all your secrets. You already shared too many.
We have to test everything first, like with the molds and that. Because we've used it for so long.
So if
you've seen our bench, it's like literally it's an 8 foot by 4 foot like stationary bench. Like we do our glue ups on there, we do our epoxy pours on there.
You do
Nothing
in that little
sticks
space.
to it. It's amazing.
Yeah, good for you.
It's also a problem actually, in terms of nothing sticking to it, because you can't, when you're trying to come up with different shapes or forms or anything like that, you can't bond anything to the material.
You can't glue anything.
So literally, there's no glue that will stick to ACPE. So it's Yeah, it's the slit. It's
a
If it
challenge.
was a person, it would
Well,
be a
it's
really,
the silicone
really good
that
treadmill
works
'cause it's very
best,
slippery.
right?
What's that?
Is it silicone that works the best then for?
No, that's just to hold the pieces in
Yeah.
place. But you've
Yeah.
seen how easy silicone peels off from it too.
Yeah,
Once it's
Yeah.
dry,
It comes right off,
it
yeah.
just comes
No
right
problem.
off, right?
Silicone's
Yeah.
just good because it creates like a nice tight seal for
Watertight.
while you're working with it. But you can peel it right out of it.
yeah, yeah. That's really cool. So I guess I want to be able to have you tell everybody about where can people get a hold of you if they want to talk business or they're interested in your maker mold or any other furniture products or cutting boards or CNC services. Where would they go for that?
We do everything.
I know you do.
We're always on our phones. So best thing to do is to go through Instagram, send us a message through either Maker's Mold,
Makers
Maker's
Reusable.
Reusable Mold.
So
Okay.
on Instagram, we're at Makers Reusable Mold or
Yeah.
at Arisan Woods.
Okay.
Facebook.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Our website is makersmold.com.
Okay.
Or arisanwoods.com. Arisan is like artisan without the T. It's it's actually has nothing to do with artisan. We came up with the name because it's Old English for rise, renew, or regrow.
Because we plant trees.
Okay, I wondered about that actually. There we go.
So if you look at the logo too, it's two hands. It looks like a house with a tree growing in, protecting trees, the house.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
We've
Okay.
done a little bit of,
There's a bit of method to our madness.
That's another whole interview.
Well, it's the same with the Maker's Reusable Mold too. Our molds can be, we didn't want anything to do with epoxy in the name itself because it's so reusable for so many different things. But again, we'll get to that. It's another interview. There's going to be a lot of exciting things coming. So
yeah, I can't wait to maybe in like 2 or 3 months we can plan to chat again and
for sure.
update of where you're at and how things are going with the new pigments and the Maker's Reusable Mold and.
Thanks
so much. I appreciate you taking this time.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed watching, be sure to click like and subscribe and hit the notifications bell to stay in the loop. If you have any questions, or if you would like to be featured on the Live Edge Lumber Girl show, leave a comment below. Until next time.